Hello, everyone. Today, I want to quietly share something I learned from a lecture by Dr. David R. Hawkins about how to approach spiritual study. Sometimes, when we begin a spiritual path, we want to understand the highest truth right away. We want the deepest teachings, the most enlightened teachers, the most advanced books. But truth does not need exaggeration. Truth stands on its own. And yet, until our consciousness has evolved to a certain level, we may not be able to recognize truth as truth. That is why we often rely on those who have walked the path before us. We read their books. We listen to their teachings. We look for guidance in the words they left behind. But then another kind of confusion can arise. Different teachers speak from different levels of awareness. They use different language. They emphasize different aspects of reality. One teacher may speak about kindness and wisdom. Another may speak about love and devotion. Another may say that the world itself is an illusion. For a beginner, all of this can feel contradictory. You may wonder, which teaching is true? Where should I begin? Why can I understand one book so easily, while another feels completely beyond me? Dr. Hawkins offered a very practical suggestion. Begin with what you can actually understand. Do not try to start with the highest mystical teachings. Start with wisdom that you can live. Start with teachings that can change the way you speak today, the way you respond today, the way you treat another person today. Something as simple as, be kind, be considerate. A wise person knows when to move forward and when to stop. Treat others with thoughtfulness. These may sound simple, but the foundation of spiritual growth often begins with very simple attitudes. Kindness, consideration, self-restraint, wisdom, knowing when to pause. If we dismiss these things as too basic, we may read advanced spiritual books, while still living in irritation, pride, anxiety, or harshness. That is not real transformation. Dr. Hawkins spoke with humor about the tendency to look for the highest number, the highest level, the most elevated teaching, and say, this is the highest one. I will start here. But if you try to begin at the very highest level, you may find that the personal self is already supposed to be gone. And for a beginner, that can be confusing. The words may sound beautiful, but you may not know how to live them. That is why we need a solid foundation. Teachings that are clear, teachings that are understandable, teachings that can be practiced in ordinary life. Speaking kindly to someone, pausing before reacting in anger, trying to understand rather than win. Living your truth quietly instead of trying to prove it. These are not small things. They are the real beginning of spiritual maturity. And when the foundation becomes strong, the next level of teaching begins to open naturally. At first, we understand with the mind. We read a sentence. We study a concept. We think, yes, I understand what this means. But over time, the teaching moves deeper. It enters the way we speak. It enters the choices we make. It enters the way we see other people. Then spiritual study is no longer just knowledge. It becomes a change in our being. Dr. Hawkins explained that teachings at a relatively lower level are not less valuable. In fact, they are often solid, clear, and deeply useful, because they can be understood and applied. Before climbing a high mountain, you need firm ground beneath your feet. Spiritual growth is the same. Before speaking of unconditional love, we may need to learn kindness. Before speaking of enlightenment, we may need to learn honesty. Before speaking of peace, we may need to practice not being ruled by our emotions. Before speaking of no self, we may need to develop a healthy and responsible self. Only then can higher teachings become real. Otherwise, a profound statement can easily be misunderstood. For example, someone may read a great teacher saying, "The world does not truly exist." But if that is taken in before one is ready, it can become an excuse to avoid responsibility, deny ordinary life, or dismiss the suffering of others. That is why sequence matters. First, kindness, then wisdom, then love, then deeper silence, then peace. There is no need to rush. Real growth is not about knowing the highest words. It is about becoming more truthful in daily life. Can I speak more gently to the person in front of me? Can I notice my anger before I pour it onto someone else? Can I choose the desire for truth over the desire to be right? This is where the path begins. And this beginning is not low. It is precious. When we walk the same path again and again, something becomes clear. Kindness toward every living being is not merely good manners. It is an expression of wisdom. When you practice kindness repeatedly, you truly become wiser. When you practice thoughtfulness repeatedly, you become deeper. When you choose love repeatedly, there comes a moment when you are no longer just understanding love. You are becoming love. So when you study spirituality, there is no need to be impatient. Begin with the teaching you can understand. Read it slowly, live it gently, apply it honestly. One sentence you can practice today may transform you more deeply than a whole book you cannot yet live. Be kind, know when to stop, treat others with consideration. Truth has power, even when it is quiet. Spiritual study is not about becoming more special. It is about becoming more real. It is about becoming softer, but stronger. It is about becoming less concerned with proving, and more devoted to living. So today, look toward the higher path. But keep your feet on solid ground. Begin with the truth you can understand. Begin with the kindness you can practice. Begin with the love you can choose today. One step at a time is enough. Truth does not rush. Truth waits quietly. And when we are ready, truth is no longer just a sentence outside of us. It becomes a living light within us.